Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. Well, 2 weeks ago, LSU got caught flat-footed with the quarterback change, and Marcel Reed came into the ballgame in College Station. Everything changed. LSU could not stop him. The turnover bug showed up again, and LSU got run off the field in the second half in Kyle Field. But you can kind of understand how that could happen. Saturday night, LSU had 2 weeks to get ready for Alabama. They had 2 weeks to prepare for Jalen Milroe running the football. They had 2 weeks to prepare for an Alabama defense that has been fine in SEC play. They had 2 weeks to set the stage for the biggest game of the season to continue on towards their goals that were set in August. And LSU flat got annihilated. In every phase of the game, from the start to the finish, LSU was almost completely non-competitive. And that is unacceptable. It was an unacceptable performance on offense. It was an unacceptable performance on defense. It was simply subpar across the board. And that is remarkably disappointing for a team that has done some good things this year. But they didn't do any of them in the game on Saturday. I don't quite understand the dynamics of this Alabama rushing attack and what it did to LSU on Saturday. It's easy to say, well, you didn't leverage here or there. Well, you had a wrong play call here or there. Well, Alabama executed really well. Well, he's as good at running quarterback as there is in the country. Like, you can toss a lot of those truths out there to patch it together. But I don't understand how Jalen Milroe can be off to the races nearly every carry against an LSU team that absolutely knew that was coming. I just don't understand that. Alabama did not run the football like that on Vanderbilt. They did not run the football like that on South Florida. They did not run the football like that against Tennessee. They did not run the football like that really against South Carolina. That has not been there every single week. I would understand if there's some freelancing stuff that's going on and you just don't have the athletes to go tackle him. And that's kind of what happened last year. But this is design stuff that you knew was coming. And LSU was completely and totally ill-prepared and completely and totally incapable of providing any resistance from start to finish. And I don't really get that. This group has played some good run defense this year. And sure, he busts the first one for a 30-plus yard touchdown. Well, I hate that, but, it's going to happen. He's a really good player, and they called a good play and made it work. But you would think at some point LSU would make an adjustment or make a play, figure something out. Nope. His second to last carry of the game went for more than 70 yards and a touchdown. It was just whenever he wanted it, wherever he wanted it, he got it. And again, I just don't really fully grasp that. If he had done that to everybody, I get that why Clemson couldn't stop Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Nobody did. Just didn't happen. I get why Oklahoma couldn't handle that LSU offense because they just did that to everybody. Alabama doesn't do this to everybody. LSU's got enough dudes on defense to provide the same type of resistance Vanderbilt did. They can provide the same type of resistance that some of the other teams on Alabama's schedule provided. South Carolina, namely, in the recent past. And they just didn't. 12 attempts, 185 yards. And you just listen to the totals on his rushes. 39. 5 for a first down. 7, 5, 6, 4, 22. 10 more touchdown. 19 touchdown. Gain of 1 on a keeper, finally. 72. Every time he wanted to run, they got 5, 6, 7, or 70 yards. It's difficult for me to comprehend. And it was from start to finish. And that, to me, was the biggest story in this game. I can talk, and we will talk over the next 20 minutes about LSU's offense and the lack of execution and the turnovers and how difficult it was potentially to play in the rain and some of that stuff. We can talk about the fact that Jalen Milroe did beat you early in the game, especially on third downs from the pocket. That's not something that I could have forecasted coming. But you knew that they were just going to run it and that Milroe was going to be a big piece of that, and LSU just had no answer. I get it if UL Monroe doesn't have an answer. I don't get it that LSU doesn't have an answer. And it was the same thing you saw last year. Over 2 games against LSU, Jalen Milroe goes for 330 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. I want to move on and talk about some of the other things. I want to talk about the fact that Alabama got 10 of their 13 third down conversions. I want to talk about the fact that LSU lost time of possession, the yardage stick, the turnover battle, the scoreboard. I want to talk about all that. But there is nothing that was more impactful, disappointing, and noteworthy as the quarterback run game. Because Brian Kelly literally said in the moments after LSU played Texas A&M, I would probably run the quarterback on us. Like, you know they had to have worked on that and repped that time and time and time again for 2 weeks. And the first time Jalen Milroe kept the ball, he went for a 35-yard touchdown. Everything was in front of you. The stadium was awesome, even in the crappy weather. And that crowd stayed in the game the entire way into the middle of the third quarter once it got to be 4 scores. Like, even at halftime, when things looked pretty bad, it was 21-6. And I thought, man, the rain's picked up. Probably not going to be a full house when they kick it off in the third quarter. And I wouldn't say it was a full house when they kicked it off in the third quarter, but the crowd was live. And LSU got that 4th down stop, and the crowd went nuts because you thought, okay, you got a chance. And then you immediately fumbled the football away. You had 2 chances to really make it a game. And Nussmeier threw the pick from the 5, and then he fumbled the play after LSU had gotten a big 4th down stop. There's just nothing ever to get excited about if you're an LSU fan. But the crowd was there. LSU just couldn't stop Alabama. 420 yards of offense, only 109 of those came on the ground. Bama runs for 311 yards on the ground, 6.5 yards per carry for the game. Alabama averaged 6.4 yards per play. It really looked like at a time, really 2 weeks ago, that LSU had what looked to be a competitive playoff-bound team. When I looked back at the 8-minute mark in the third quarter against Texas A&M, you look at that point, you've got a team that has gone on the road and beaten South Carolina, who's playing great football right now. You look at a team that went toe-to-toe with Ole Miss and came out on top. Ole Miss might be the best team in the SEC. And you had a team that was on the road in Kyle Field, taking on a top 15 opponent with first place in the SEC on the line and was dominating that football game. That's where we were midway through the third quarter 2 weeks ago. And since that point, you lost 31-6 to Texas A&M and 42-13 to Alabama. That's 73-19. You've been outscored over those 6 quarters. It is shocking how this thing flipped on itself from the Garrett Nussmeier interception against Texas A&M, where they got run back into the goal red zone, and then Marcel Reed came in. You were looking like a team that could win the Southeastern Conference and play in the playoffs, and you now are a team that's getting reasonable questions in the Monday press conference. Like, are you okay with where the direction of the program is? That's how drastic this thing switched over the last 2 weeks, and it's way, way disappointing that we're having that conversation now instead of rummaging through potential playoff scenarios. But You don't deserve to talk about the playoff right now when you get beat 42-13 on your home field in front of a packed house by a team you had 2 weeks to prepare for and had no answers on either side of the ball for. That is really disappointing. It was a disappointing night inside Tiger Stadium on Saturday. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.